Good morning and welcome to the Petitti Pro Garden Show. Thank you all so much for getting up early and being with us in the mornings. And we have a few more shows that we'll be sharing with you on Saturday mornings. We will be ending up at the end of October. So if you or your group has anything that you would like to share with all of our listeners, I invite you to give me a call or give Jane a call here at the radio station and let us know what you would like us to share. You can always call me and ask me to share your information, or you can email it to me, or you can drop off your information at the store. Or if you have questions that you would like to have answered, you can all of those things. And so our phone number is 330-455-5997, or you can email me at cindypetitti@gmail.com. That's CINDYPETITTI@gmail.com. Or better yet, stop in at the store and bring me your information or bring me your question. And that is at 5828 Columbus Road in Nimishillen Township. We're right there on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway. The corner there of Broadway and Columbus Road is exactly 1 mile north of State Route 62. So we're real easy to find. And we would just love you to stop in. And also, we'd love you to stop in at this time of the year because we have wonderful things for fall decorating. All the things that you might need, your pumpkins, your gourds, your corn stalks, of course, your mums that we grew ourselves. Also, straw, all of those things that you might need for all of that fall decorating if you're having a Halloween party or just a fall festival at your house or just doing a little bit of decorating so that it looks festive for the fall season. It's such a beautiful time of year. And so we have all of those things that you might need, as well as, sometimes you want some accent plants to go along with your mums. You're used to great big summer planters, and you like to have something just a little bit more than just a mum. We have those accent plants as well that can handle some frost, like the kale, even some of the grasses. There's several perennials that can handle the cold temperatures and still look really, really nice. So we have all of those plants that you're going to want as well as harvesting crops right now. We have tomatoes and peppers in. We have cucumbers. There's a lot coming on in what we grow at the garden center that you can stop in and take advantage of, as well as at the farmers markets. And this morning, there are a few farmers markets going on, of course. The Alliance Farmers Market is going on. The Canton Farmers Market has today and one more, and that's it for them. And then also the Louisville Farmers Market, sponsored by the Rotary of Louisville, is this today. This is the last one for the Louisville market for the year. They do the first Saturday of every month, and so this is going to be the last one for them for this year. But it's a nice market. There's also an event uptown along with the farmers market. It's a fall festival sponsored by the Louisville Public Library. They're going to have some animals and all kinds of things to do that goes along with a fall festival, and some great farming, informative sheets that they're going to have there, and different types of information about farming and agriculture. And so it's going to be a great, great event. So if you can get to Louisville today between 9 and noon, it's going to be a wonderful event. And I know some great people there. There's going to have some little goats for you to pet and some other types of animals. So that's going to be a really nice event. So that is in the green space, just east of town and just east of the farmers market. Actually, you can see it from the farmers market. So it's going to be a very nice event, but based around agriculture and the harvest time of year. So that's going to be great. So we are going to answer some of the questions that you all have had this week. Linda had a question about garlic, and she is planting her garlic, and everyone knows this is the time of year that you want to get your garlic planted. But her question was, I want to put down corn gluten meal to control my weeds, and I'm getting ready to plant my garlic. So how should I do it? And corn gluten meal is going to stop germination. So even though your garlic is not a seed, if it doesn't have any green coming out of that clove that you have pulled apart from your bulb, so when you buy garlic bulbs to plant, you're going to pull it apart just like you were if you were going to be cooking with it, and you're going to plant every individual clove. If that clove does not have a green shoot already coming out of it, it technically has not germinated. So you want to make sure that you do not put your corn gluten meal down until you have germination. So it's going to definitely help control weeds around. So make sure that the area is clean. Get your garlic planted. And you're going to want to use a good fertilizer with them, just like any other bulb. If you're planting your bulbs, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, your regular flowering bulbs, your spring flowering bulbs you plant in the fall, those ones, when you plant them, you want to make sure that you're using a good fertilizer for them, and that's going to be bone meal or bulb tone. And it's going to be the same way with your garlic. So put some of that bulb tone or bone meal in with your garlic when you're planting them. Once you have germination shooting through the earth, that's when you want to put your corn gluten meal down. And you can get that in. And it's really going to help control the weeds. Remember, if you do have any weeds shoot up while your garlic is germinating, you want to go ahead and get those pulled. Remember, the corn gluten meal is only a pre-emergent. It also does add nitrogen to the soil, though, but it's not going to control any post-emergent weeds. So you will want to pull those weeds and then put your corn gluten meal down, and you will notice that you have wonderful results with your garlic. Your garlic, then again, you will harvest next July and save a couple of those bulbs for planting. Or, of course, we always carry the fall garlic bulbs for you to plant at the garden center. And so you can do it either way. So now we are going to talk about your spring blooming bulbs. So remember, blooms in the spring, you plant in the fall. Blooms in the summer, you plant in the spring. You're always going to plant a season ahead of time. So for your tulips and your daffodils and your hyacinths, your crocuses, all of those spring blooming bulbs, this is when you want to get them in the ground. So you're going to, plant in nice clusters. You're going to have a bigger bang for your buck. It's going to show up nice. Remember that daffodils, they multiply every year. Daffodils also are very resistant to the little guys that like to eat your tulips. Those voles and the moles and the chipmunks, all of those little guys that really like to have a smorgasbord on your tulips, they really don't like those daffodils at all. Actually, they are poisonous for them. So daffodils might be an alternative if you do have a problem with the chipmunks and the voles eating your tulips. Tulips are very beautiful, though. And so there are a few things that I'm going to give you some tips on planting tulips. But for all of your bulbs, you're going to want to dig your hole right around 4 inches deep. And you're going to want to put down in that hole your bulb tone, or your bone meal, and then put your bulb in. And then you want to make sure that you're backfilling with a nice soil. So many times we put these bulbs in the ground and we cover them with a heavy clay soil that came out, and then we wonder why they don't do well the next year. The soil needs to be amended just like it would if you're planting anything else. These bulbs, they need to be able to flourish and root in, and then that bulb needs to be able to grow so that you're going to have a flower for next year. So you want to make sure that you do amend that soil. So if you have a heavy clay soil, maybe throwing out part of that soil and amending it with some peat moss, some gypsum, maybe some hayseed hank super soil, a wonderful organic soil that's going to really, really help your bulbs come on. So sometimes if you have a very heavy clay soil, you just want to throw all of that soil into your compost pile and let the compost work on that, and then use a total new backfill of like the hayseed hanks super soil as your backfill. You're still going to want to go ahead and use your bone meal or your bulb tone to feed them, and that's going to make them do much better. Now, if you are planting tulips and you have your heart set on them because you love tulips, and tulips they're an absolutely beautiful plant. But if you have an issue with chipmunks and voles and they love them, there are a couple tricks that you can do to try to deter them from eating those bulbs. So some of them take some time, some of them just take some money. So the first thing you can do is, if you have been planning for this, saving your eggshells. You can save eggshells throughout the year and then encompass the bulb with the eggshells. You want to make sure that you always have that root system of your bulb has direct contact with actual soil. And then put a little bit of soil around the bulb, but then encompass that whole little thing with eggshells. And that will deter the voles and the chipmunks from going to the bulb, because that's very sharp. Also, as it breaks down, it does add calcium to the soil, which is good for your bulb too. But it will help deter. So you can do that, but it takes time because you're going to need a lot of eggshells to encompass several bulbs. The other route that you can go, you can buy oyster shells. You can also buy perlite. That works pretty well. Or also, Espoma has a product called Soil Protector. And things that are planted down in the soil, you can encompass them with this product, and it will protect that bulb. They really don't like the feel of that either, and they will leave your bulbs alone. So you do have some options if you really want to plant the tulips. The other thing is, that's going to deter your chipmunks and your voles. But the other thing that really likes tulips are deer. So once they do pop up in the springtime, you do have that issue also. A lot of times deer will just come in and just nip off the tops of your tulip bulbs because they really like the tulips themselves. Actually, not the bulb, the flower, the plant itself. The deer really, really like that. So you want to make sure that you are protecting the whole plant. There are some great repellents, repels all deer out. Remember, we've talked about those in the spring, and we will talk about them again in the spring, that you'll want to use a repellent in the springtime once your bulbs come up and they're growing well, because the deer will be hungry again and want to have those bulbs. So in the fall, you're going to plant your bulbs. You're going to protect the bulb from the chipmunks and the voles now, and then you'll protect the plant in the springtime from the deer. So we're going to have to deal with all of them. The next question that we had was about green, mossy, mold-looking substance on trees. And what is it? And why is it there? And is it going to kill my tree? So Judy called in this week, and she said that there was a contractor at her house, and he was working at the neighbors, and he stopped by, and he just happened to look at her trees, and he told her that all of her trees were dying because of this green mold that was growing on her trees. And she said then a tree trimmer stopped by that had done some work for her and told her that he just thought he should just take every one of these trees out of her lawn, and then it would stop spreading and she wouldn't have to worry about it. So actually, this coming week, I have an appointment set up with Judy that we're going to go out and take a look and see how this has progressed, and if any of her trees, in fact, are dying, or if really just a good diet and some good trimming is going to help her trees out. So usually this mold, and like I said, I haven't seen Judy's trees yet, but 90% of the time in the 34 years that I have been landscaping, I have found that this mold is usually on the north side of the plant. It grows on the bark because of very little sunlight and acidic soil and very little food, which means we're not fertilizing the tree on a regular basis. So if you have green mold, and a lot of times you'll notice this on dogwoods and sometimes on maples, and that's what's on Judy's, is on her maple trees that we're going to be checking out, and we'll let you all know what we find out. But normally this isn't something that kills the tree quickly. If that mold continues to grow on the tree, it can grow through the bark layer and into the cambium layer, and that's when it will start to cause some issues. But if it's just growing on the bark You can spray Moss Max on there and control it. The other thing you might want to do is control the pH in the soil. And using a product like Moss Max will definitely help, or liming that area. You really should be liming your yards every 3 years on a regular basis, and that will really help control the pH in your lawn area, which is in the soil, and that's going to help control the pH with all of your plants. The other thing is key is fertilization. And so I asked Judy, so what fertilization plan are you using on your trees? And she said, well, I've been here 18 years and I've never fertilized them. And again, I've probably said this on the air before, and I say this in my shop all the time. How would you look if you hadn't eaten in 18 years besides what you could find in the dirt? Most of us wouldn't be around, and we expect our trees and our shrubs to live flourishing for 20 years without ever fertilizing them. And we have to use some common sense here. Just like people, if we don't eat a healthy diet, we're going to get sick. It's the same way with our plant material. If we don't feed them a healthy diet, they're going to get sick. They're not going to be able to fight off diseases that come against them. And just like in our walk with Christ, if we don't ever feed ourselves and read the Word and pray and seek His faith, we are never going to be able to be healthy and be a good witness for Christ, because we're going to fall by the wayside all the time. And so it's so important in every aspect of our life, in our faith walk and in our physical walk. So we have to do it. So we really need to think about the other things in our lives the same way. And our plant material need to eat a healthy diet so that they can fight and combat what's coming against them. So feeding your plant material in the spring and in the fall is so very important. So we want to make sure that we are feeding our trees and shrubs at the drip line in the fall to feed the root system, to make the plant strong and healthy and make it through the winter. And then we want to feed them in the spring so that we can get a new lush flush of life out of it. New leaves, new flowers, new color, new brilliance. And we want to make sure that we're feeding twice a year. So we have the holly tone, we have the plant tone and the tree tone. So these are the organic fertilizers that we want to use in the spring and in the fall. And you want to do that on all of your plants, and you don't want to just wait till they're looking bad. You know, it's like someone, well, I'm going to smoke cigarettes until I get cancer, and then I'll think about cutting back. No, we don't want to wait till our plants are sick before we stop letting the plant, just live on what's left in the soil. We want to make sure that we're feeding them from the beginning. So if you're putting in a new landscape this year, if you've paid good money to have a landscaper come and put your landscape in this summer, you want to make sure that you continue to feed that landscape so it does look good for you for 15 or 20 years. Or maybe, if you're only planning on living there for 10 years, you're doing this for the next homeowner so that the home looks beautiful with the plants that you have chosen for it for a long period of time, no matter who lives in the house. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. Your landscaper, I'm sure, fertilized when they planted, but you want to make sure that you continue with that same regimen of fall and spring every year. You make sure that you're doing that wonderful favor for the plant and yourself by keeping that plant healthy by doing a good feeding program with it. And if you have a special plant that you're not sure if it likes an acidic soil or an alkaline soil, or a neutral pH, you can always give us a call and we will make sure that we help you out with that. And if you have questions about that, remember 330-455-5997, or bring a list of your plants in. Every plant that you have, bring a list of them in, and we can write down for you on your list what fertilizer which fertilizer each one of your plants needs. So you can stop in at the store at 5828 Columbus Road, and that's in Louisville address in Nimishillen Township, right there on the corner of Columbus Road and Broadway, and we'll make sure that we get you all that information. Or you can email me at cindypetitti@gmail.com, and I'll email you back the fertilizers that you need to be using on those plants, and that's going to make everything do so much better for you. If you don't know what the plant is, take photos of it and then bring the photo in or email me the photo, and then we can tell you, okay, this is a Paris japonica mountain fire and it needs to have holly tone, or this is a Weigelia dark horse and it needs to have plant tone. We can be able to tell you what the plant is and what fertilizer you need to have with it. The next question that we had was about cover crops, and we want to cover that quickly before we start talking about the farm tour that's going on tomorrow, sponsored by the Stark County Farm Bureau. So we want to talk about cover crops, and cover crops is getting very, very popular, not only in the organic vegetable gardens, but also I was talking to the farmer that we get our corn stalks from, and he grows a non-GMO corn, so I feel so good about that. So if we have any corn stalks that doesn't sell to y'all, I feel good about giving it to my cows when we're all done with that. But he was telling me about how many local small farmers in Stark County are starting to use cover crops, and it is so important for your soil. And really, he is using these cover crops in lieu of any fertilization. So we don't have to worry about that nitrogen runoff, that phosphorus runoff that's causing, algae bloom in our waterways. And so cover crops are so important because they do add natural nitrogen back to the soil. And, so many different cover crops are out there now and has been studied for years and used for years, but just wasn't, the popular thing to do. And now we're finding that the cover crops are great. The different types of turnips, the different types of peas, winter peas, the clovers, buckwheat, all of these are great cover crops being planted right now. So if you're harvesting things in your garden and you're getting your gardens all cleaned up, this is a time that you want to get that cover crop down. And then we're going to be able to till it in the spring and till in that green manure, and all of that nitrogen is going to be released into the soil. So it's going to really feed your gardens for next year. So remember, those cover crops are very, very important and a great way to naturally fertilize your soil, and you will see huge differences. The soil being healthy is going to really have a great effect. This farmer, Mr. Wagner, is just such a gem. He's been such a blessing to me. And he was telling me about, using the cover crops last year and planting his corn this year when other people's corn was starting to look bad because of the drought. His was still looking good because his corn was able to get a very deep root system. And even though we were having a drought, his root system was so deep that it was still being able to get the moisture from deep down in the soil. So cover crops are very important. And if we do have, droughts in the future, think about how you can use those cover crops prior to planting your garden and then not have to water so much, and we're going to be saving on our resources. So we want to make sure that we do all of those things. Well, we're going to dedicate the last couple minutes of our show to the Stark County Farm Bureau's farm tour. It starts tomorrow at noon. And it's a self-guided farm tour. It runs until 5 o'clock. There's 5 spots. The Puro Dairy Farm, it's at 720 Motts Avenue, East Canton. The Brown Brothers Farm is a poultry farm. It's at 3086 Fox Avenue, and they have a Paris, Ohio address. Red Star Veterinarian Clinic, and that's at 5447 Lincoln Street East in East Canton. Indian Run Christian Church, that's the community garden, and that's at 8368 Hill Church Street in East Canton, and the Mapleton Cider Mill at 8720 Mapleton Street, also an East Canton address. So all 5 spots has different things to be doing on it, and the Indian Run Church is the spot where you're going to turn in your tomato plants if you picked up a tomato start at the Stark County Fair, and you will get a gift for bringing in your tomato plant, and then also you're going to be entered into a drawing for a new bicycle. So if you got a tomato plant at the Stark County Fair, make sure that you get it to Indian Run. All of these spots are going to be great. The education on agriculture is going to be at each one of the spots. At Mapleton, I know that Farm Bureau is going to be handing out apples, and they're also going to be handing out cider samples. So every one of the stops has something for kids and adults, agriculture education at each one of the spots. If you have questions, please give us a call today at our store. We'll make sure that you get a flyer. I'll fax you one, email you one, whatever. Also, at the Canton Farmers Market today, at the Louisville Farmers Market today, and at the Louisville Public Library's Fall Festival Ag Day, we have flyers at each one of those spots if you want more information. I want to thank you all so much for listening again, and we will see you right here next week on The Light. You all have a blessed week.